check them out. That would be great. And we're moving to our last presenter for this part of the conference before we go into the break. And for our next talk, we have Daniel Sebanes Bove with his talk on working at the intersection of biostatistics and software engineering in a pharma company. So Daniel, please take it away.
Thanks a lot. Can you hear me and see everything? All good?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I'm very happy to thanks everybody for joining, for taking the time for this talk. So working at the intersection of biostatistics and software engineering in a pharma company, what intersection am I talking about? It's really kind of this sweet spot between, coding stuff, also biostatistics applications, and doing that, of course, in a pharma company. And I think it's really a nice spot to be in. So it's kind of a dream job for me. And today I want to tell you a little bit about how our team works, how does it fit into the open source collaboration strategy that also Roche was talking about, and why all of this, right? And actually I will start with why all of this, why do this fun work? It's really, the question, why should we take software engineering in biostatistics actually seriously? And there are several components to that, I think. The code that we write, I think, in pharma companies, that is really critical to the business, right? And I don't need to give too many examples here, but basically most of the fit-for-purpose project code that's written internally by people in the companies, it's not like we send some specifications to some external software company vendor and they give us back the software, right? It's not like that. It cannot work like that. And this purpose code is only to increase with the growing use of open source, replacing proprietary software, right? That's the first reason. The second reason, I think, is that the analysis code that we use in multiple projects in the pharma company, that needs to be scaled appropriately, right? We need to make sure it's really reliable, it's extensible, it's adaptable to different situations, it's reproducible, of course. If years later we need to go back and run the analysis again, it needs to be intuitive so that more statisticians can onboard easily in the future. It needs to be scalable across different sizes of data set, and so on. And it needs to be maintainable, right? So if future developers gonna take this over. That's all a lot of requirements. And in addition, of course, as we also talk a lot, of course, about is the software might also need to be validated on the target systems that it's running on, right? Because of course we have a well-regulated industry here. Details are, of course, out of scope. There will be a nice talk by Doug and Colleen showing the kind of Roche approach to this. But of course, the code needs to be well developed, tested, and documented. That's kind of a prerequisite. So because all of this, I think we need to take software engineering as a serious topic in biostatistics. And it's not just something on the side that some nerds are doing in the free time. And it also takes a lot of experience and time to do this, right? So this is not easy. So how can research software engineering help here as a kind of concept and as kind of a topic? That's a well-known field in academia, but less so far in the industry. So I think we can really apply best coding practices, and this is nothing new, of course. This is transferred from many other fields. It's things like version control, code review, unit testing, integration testing, continuous integration of new code, reproducibility, and so on, right? So nothing really new, but very important practices, and many statisticians so far are not familiar with this at all, right? And dedicated research software engineering teams or RSE teams, they can really then cultivate these best coding practices as a kind of center of excellence. They can also develop the cross-project backbone code and avoid really time-intensive copy-pasting, adapting code between projects like that. They can also work together with other companies on open source packages. And today, I really want to share our experience in building such an RSE in biostatistics team at Roche. And we call this Statistical Engineering team. So what's the mission of the Statistical Engineering team? In 2 words, it's accelerating innovation. In 1 sentence, it's to co-create tools, accelerating the use of new statistical methods and analysis of new data types by project teams in order to achieve maximum impact through new actionable insights, right? So there's a couple of important elements here. Co-creation, so we never do this alone. We always do this with the experts or with the business partners. We focus on new statistical methods or new data types and new biomarker data. And of course, we do this in the end to achieve impact on the project teams, that they can really get new insights from their data. So what's the remit of the statistical engineering team? Basically, it's engineering statistical software tools, like this little Swiss Army knife here, basically. So typically these are R packages, Shiny or Teal modules, we heard about Teal already today, or how-to templates. So it can also just be Quarto templates. And of course, we aim to build high-quality tools, which are performant, extensible, maintainable, reliable, and all of those other adjectives I mentioned on the previous slide. The users are typically from our own data science department, but they can come from the whole organization. We focus on R initially now due to the department strategy, but we are also open to other languages as needed. For example, we use Stan or C++ code inside R packages, and we're also exploring Julia for special tasks. So some example products on the R packages side, and the first one here, Helios, that's a biomarker package that's internal. All the others now are open source already. So for example, Hermes for RNA sequencing, data analysis already on Bioconductor, RBMI, reference-based multiple mutation, already on CRAN, and actually won an RSS Statistical Excellence Award this year. CRMPAC for dose escalation with continual reassessment methods, already on CRAN. More about it later. Also MMM package recently on CRAN. I will also say more about that in a second. Turn.mmm, that's basically building on the Turn package and on the MMM package to then produce tables and graphs for MMMs. And PSBOR2 is a new one. It's on GitHub. It's for dynamic borrowing from historical controls. So these are just some example products from the statistical engineering team. So who's behind this? This is our team currently, as of basically now. We have 14 members in total, but only roughly 6 full-time equivalents. So most of these people are part-time. And it's a global distributed team across all basically time zones. And it's really a lot of fun to work with all of these folks. So that's really great. So a little bit more about these people. So a lot of these people are rotations. So what is this? Rotations are basically part-time, let's say, assignments in our team. Usually these last like at least half a year, but 1 year, because of course the ramping up takes some time. We have a mix of levels of different R fluency levels or different backgrounds, and all of that can be managed well through agile team organization. More about it in a second. And we also have rotations beyond our departments, and it's not just all in our own data science department, but it's really across departments, across the globe. And it adds a lot to the diversity and improves the outcomes. We are very, very well connected to the business because we have these incoming rotations. We can really build on the internal expertise of the colleagues. And we can then, because the colleagues, of course, learn a lot of new skills in the statistical engineering team, they can export this back to the business, which is great. And of course, we can also enable diverse career paths for data scientists. And I think that helps with retention and hiring as well. The challenges, let's say, to this rotation strategy is, of course, some speed sometimes, right? Because we only have a few long-term members in the team currently that can act as leads. Also finding strong candidates among interested candidates. That's also sometimes a thing, but normally we have enough interested candidates so we can really select the ones that match well to the projects. And of course, the mindset is also important. So people need to be open to learn new tools and really accept this kind of learning curve in the beginning. And generally, the onboarding really takes time and patience, right? It's not something of a few days. It's more like several weeks, but it really pays off in the end. A little bit more about these agile ways of working. They proved to be very effective for us. I found this little graphic here from Modern Agile, where it's about making people awesome. That's really this onboarding of people, investing into that, making safety a prerequisite, really make everybody feel very safe to ask questions anytime. Don't hold back anything. Experiment and learn rapidly. Again, learning on the job, also making some quick prototypes rather than jumping into full-fledged production coding in the beginning. I think that's very important. delivering value continuously. This is really small tasks and incrementing, improving the product. And in the old, let's say, agile manifesto words, we basically put individuals and interactions over processes and tools, right? So we prefer chat rooms, meetings. We avoid any kind of emails. We prefer working software over too much comprehensive documentation. So we really want to have tests for all the functionality, automatically generated docs from that. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So we build on user input from the start to the end of the development of the products, and we respond to change over following a plan. So actually, we don't have detailed long-term plans, but only a strategic direction, and that's I think better in this case. And we work in product-specific teams. For example, one team is on one R package. We organize ourselves on Kanban boards to keep the overview of the tasks, where they are at. Meet then online at least 2 to 3 times per week in stand-up meetings, quickly removing blockers, touch base, keep everybody engaged. And of course, we use a continuous integration via GitHub Actions, thorough unit testing to ensure this working software at all times. And that's supported by a separate horizontal team that you heard Dinaka Kulkarni already giving the nice CI/CD workshop at this conference. They're helping us a lot with that in the background. A little bit more about the, let's say, engagement, keeping people engaged. I think really keeping everyone motivated is key, especially when working with rotations, because we don't have, let's say, formal authority and so on. So it really needs to be fun, and the kind of code needs to kind of flow out of your keyboard, a little bit like in this graphic. Developers really assign tasks themselves, right? They know how much time they have next to their other duties. They know the difficulty level and topic they would like to tackle. We want to make sure to match new rotations to products they're really interested in, and we encourage and build up talents rather than trying to micromanage them. We work generally in shorter duration cycles, so really trying to have very small tasks which only take a few days to complete. That's also motivating. Prioritizing code review or pull requests to finish them over starting new stuff in parallel, so always just work on one task, basically. And diversity improves results. I think those different backgrounds, locations, departments, that helps and really optimize results. A little bit more on the sourcing prioritization of the products for the portfolio. So basically, what products could we work on next? We have regular check-ins with partner groups and stakeholders to see what might be coming up. We also sometimes do some gap analysis ourselves to see where are there large gaps that we could help. We rely a lot on proactive advertisement of our team so that interested groups would know that we are there and they can reach out to us for help, and that works pretty well. And again, we stay flexible, have a short line of sight. Prioritization, which products are important, that's of course important, very, very key, right? We don't want to work on something not important. And we focus on impact, right? Which areas is it exploratory? What's the added value? How many users will be there? What's the maturity of the methodology? And also what will be the effort, right? Is it like a whole package? Is it maybe a small fix? Is it like a prototype? Is it like a template? All of these, let's say, need different efforts. And of course, additional resources can then be provided by the business group to speed up or enable the product work. So how does it fit in with the open source collaboration? So we really invest in open source. And why is that? Okay, we want to be sapiens, if you heard Ross' keynote today. And the longer answer is, well, we get a lot of direct value from open source, right? We can attract new talents. We can maintain a high quality bar for our tools because we need to pass external reviews and scrutiny. We can really enable the synergistic collaboration with other companies and academic institutions, very, very important. And regulators, FDA, for example, can use and trust our tools, for example, when they're reviewing submissions that use them. And there's also indirect value, right? Thought leadership on critical topics to influence where the industry is going, opportunity to define industry standards, and publications are also attractive for authors, and it again helps with retention. I also want to advertise a little bit the new umbrella for open source efforts, which is particularly targeted towards biostatistics. So this is the Software Engineering Working Group, or short SWE Working Group. It's associated currently with the American Statistical Association Biopharmaceutical Section, ASA BIOP. It's also connected with the R Consortium via the ASA, and also Joe Rickett is also on the working group. We have currently more than 20 members from more than 15 organizations in the working group, and we're open for new members, so please consider joining. I will show the link at the end. And the primary objective is really to gather engineer statistical tools which have been missing so far, right? So let's do that together, the stuff that has been missing. Secondary objective is then to really to promote the best practices for engineering those tools. So how would we plug into this SWE working group? Basically, if you look at statistical engineering as a team, and let's say left is internal, right is external, there will always be internal projects like Helios, but actually many projects will go external. For example, RBMI, it was open source very early on. CIMPAC, we have a very nice collaboration with German Merck, with Bayer and University of Cambridge to get the methods that they actually developed into the package again. So because it was open source, they developed their own extensions. Now we bring it back into the package. There was a nice presentation at ICB on this topic, really, really very nice. And then, of course, the SWE working group can act as an umbrella facilitating fluent collaborations in general. And the recent example is the MMM package. That is really a joint new project that was really it's a product of the working group. And we have currently 4 companies total that share the copyright on this package, so that have been actively contributing code to this package. So quick outlook to wrap up. So increasingly, we see open source programming languages like R, of course, getting more and more important. It's a huge opportunity. On the other hand, I think it needs to be handled with care. Right, we need to make sure that this stuff really works and gives the right results. And I think we need, therefore, this increased focus on software engineering, especially within the biostatistics realm. And working together across organizations is key. That's the way to become more efficient. That's the way to obtain industry standards. We can get the buy-in from regulators like that, and we can really improve outcomes over closed source proprietary solutions, right? That's, I think, the key. So yeah, thanks for your time. Now time for some questions, maybe.
Daniel, thank you so much for a wonderful talk. We don't have questions in Q&A, but I do have a question. I love your concept about statistical engineering team, and I think a lot of us statisticians, are thinking about that. Not the team necessarily, but like how do we really separate when we are developing shiny apps and such, right? I looked at your challenges that you listed when you kind of take this rotation approach or rotation strategy. What do you think about, or have you experienced any challenges with really passing the tool that you create, whether it's an R package or Shiny app, to someone else during that rotation, and the time that would take someone else to get up to speed to what has been created, and to add on an existing tool, right? And also, have you experienced any challenge on really client and developer relationship once another person comes on board and takes over the tool? It's a little bit loaded, but what do you think from that angle? Like, what is the effect? Or
yeah, I guess your question goes in general in the direction how easy it is to pass the
baton, to someone else.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, to be honest, of course, let's say these products are still relatively new, so we haven't done that really a lot yet, passing really the baton to somebody else completely. I mean, this whole team is only like a bit more than a year old, right? And some products are a little bit older, but not most of them. So that's let's say the caveat. And otherwise, of course, let's say if we have rotations coming in and it needs some time to onboard them on the product development, but that's, let's say, investment that we kind of know in advance that we want to make, right? But that usually, if people are committed and like patient, and we are also patient, it works very well, right? And because we really kind of cut the work into small tasks, and there's again different kind of, let's say, difficulty levels of tasks. Then these people really start with the easy ones, with the even shorter tasks, and then they still get up to speed relatively quickly, right? So that's kind of how it works still pretty well, even though there is already the package already development going on and somebody new one comes in, so that still works.
Thank you. I already connected with you on LinkedIn, so I'd love to continue the conversation. And this is why our Pharma is so great. You can find people who share the same interest with you and connect and continue the conversation going. Thank you so much, Daniel.